Good evening and welcome, commissioners, applicants, and interested parties to the November 6th, 2025 meeting of the Cohasset Conservation Commission. My name is Chris McIntyre. I am the chair of the Cohasset Conservation Commission. I will be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 260 of the Cohasset Bylaws governing wetlands protection, and Chapter 263 of the Cohasset Bylaws governing stormwater management. The Conservation Commission meeting is now open and in session is being held on Zoom. If you have any questions for the commission, please use the Q&A feature on the Zoom application. Please include your name and address to be recognized. When called, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission is the town's conservation agent, Charlotte Pechtel, as well as the Conservation Administrative Clerk, Melinda Wall. I will now take a roll call vote of commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, present.
Steve Magnell.
Steve McNeil, present.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Sanju Fernando is absent, and Will Ashton is not with us yet, and Chris McIntyre present. Tonight we have a quorum of 4 commissioners. First up, we have some minutes for approval. And the first set of minutes we have is the September 11th, 2025 minutes. Anyone have any comments or questions, edits for those minutes? Okay. I reviewed, they look good to me. I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we approve the September 11th, 2025.
Second.
Thank you. With the second, then I will take a roll call vote. Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, aye.
Excuse me. A roll call vote to approve the minutes. Tom Bell said aye. Steve Magnell.
Steve McNeil, aye.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
And Chris McIntyre, aye. That vote passes 4-0-0. Those minutes for September 11th, 2025 are approved. And the second set is from September 23rd. Any edits, comments, or questions about those minutes?
No.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion that we approve the September 23rd, 2025 minutes.
Second.
Thank you. With a motion and a second, I will take a roll call vote. Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, aye.
Steve Magnell.
Steve McNeil, aye.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
And Chris McIntyre, aye. That vote passes 4-0-0. So the September 23rd, 2025 minutes are approved, and the October 9th and October 25th, October 23rd minutes, we will postpone so we have a little bit more time to review until the next meeting, which is November 20th, right, Charlotte?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, first up, tonight we have an after-the-fact stormwater permit for 15 Forest Ave, in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw. The Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a remote public hearing via Zoom, webinar ID 840-3561-2389, passcode 024839, for Thursday, November 6, 2025 at 6:30 for stormwater permit 25-15 for the after-the-fact approval of several additions to the existing home, construction of a new garage, removal of the existing paved driveway, and replacement with a gravel driveway for Michael Going at 350 Forest Ave, The public is invited to offer input by attending the meeting or emailing cpector@cohassetmass.gov. Do you have anyone to promote for this?
Hi, Paul.
Charlotte?
And Mike's just in the audience, so
Am I coming in okay?
I think he's
Yes.
just gonna sit in the audience for now.
Okay, Charlotte, do you want me to share my screen?
Yes, please. And can you
okay.
introduce yourself for the record as well?
Yep, absolutely. All right. So my name's Paul Gunn. I'm a project engineer with Morse Engineering. I'm here tonight to represent the applicant for the after-the-fact stormwater permit at 350 Forest Avenue. As I just mentioned, I'm sure the commission's aware, this is an after-the-fact stormwater permit application. As the proposed additions to the single-family home have already been constructed, the detached garage shown on the site plan is currently under construction as well. The existing driveway to the north has been removed, but work on the proposed crushed stone driveway has not yet. The applicant, at the time they contacted Morse Engineering, had already received building permits for the additions in the detached garage, and they reached out to us in order to get some guidance on drainage improvements. It was at that point that we reviewed the ongoing work and informed Mr. Going that his project scope would have required a stormwater permit with the Conservation Commission. And then at that point, Mr. Going requested we prepare a permit application to rectify the situation. So prior to any construction on the lot, the property included a single-family dwelling with a detached shed, a paved driveway to the north, and a second paved driveway to the south that provides access to several dwellings to the west, and a mixture of lawn and landscaped areas. The high point on the property is to the south at about elevation 49, while the low point is to the north at about elevation 43. Stormwater on site currently drains largely from south to north following this topography, where it either frequently ponded on the applicant's property or ran off to the existing catch basin that is in this abutting right of way. That catch basin then discharges to a drainage system under Forest Ave via a pipe that crosses the applicant's property. The proposed project includes the construction of several additions to the single-family dwelling, the construction of a detached garage, the removal of an existing shed and a paved driveway to the north, and then the construction of a new crushed stone driveway coming in from the south. The proposed work results in a net decrease in impervious area of approximately 144 square feet. Runoff from the new detached garage and one of the additions is proposed to be routed to a set of subsurface dry wells to provide peak rate attenuation, groundwater recharge, and TSS removal. We're also proposing several construction phase erosion control measures. This includes a staked mulch sock around the entire property to prevent erosion or sedimentation, a silt sack sediment trap on the adjacent catch basin to prevent any accumulation. And we're also proposing to relocate the construction entrance to an area with a stabilized tracking pad to reduce the impact of vehicles coming and going and prevent any sediment tracking. In addition, we are aware of the concerns voiced by the abutters to the north. Charlotte has shared both their letter and their photos with us regarding the impacts of construction phase runoff and sedimentation, primarily onto their parking lot. I've reviewed these photos and I do believe that we can address their concerns through the construction phase erosion controls that we're proposing to install, which would reduce sedimentation, reduce vehicle traffic and sediment tracking on the shared right-of-way, and prevent any ongoing adverse impacts from the construction. Post-construction, the area is going to be, of course, stabilized with loam and seed or the gravel driveway, and the reduced impervious and subsurface dry wells provide a reduction in stormwater rates and volumes. That's all I have. I'll turn it back to the commission for question and comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions off?
Yeah, I have some concerns here. I'm perplexed that a project of this scale was not submitted for a stormwater permit from before it was ever started. What went on here? This is I mean, the pictures show no silt sock around the site. Obviously, there's some obvious flooding. A lot of construction going on here. How did this happen?
Yeah, of course. And Mr. Going may be able to provide a little bit more info on the timeline concerning the building permits, but I mean, Morse Engineering was contacted about, 2 months ago, once, it was made clear that there was some need for some stormwater control. But my understanding is that the building permits were issued and Mr. Going wasn't aware that a stormwater permit would have been required.
Yeah, and I can add to that, Mr. Chair and Tom. So the proposed additions, I can get the exact dates, but they were proposed first. And at the time a building permit was filed for those, they did not trigger the stormwater bylaw. So there was no sign off needed for stormwater at that time. But recently, I think it was earlier this year, the garage permit was submitted under an additional building permit. That footprint alone would have triggered the stormwater bylaw, not counting the previous additions. Not really sure what happened, but conservation was not a sign off in Permitize. And I think it was discovered after the fact. So I think that's probably around the time that Morse was consulted to put in some stormwater management. The foundation for the garage and the garage is mostly already built at this point. The building inspector informed, and I also spoke to some of the applicants as well, that they can continue to build at their own risk while the stormwater permit is being reviewed. However, just noting that, you don't have all your permits, even though a building permit was issued beforehand. So I think in terms of this after the fact nature, I would definitely want to see erosion controls installed by a certain deadline or in a very timely manner, depending on how the commission wants to address it, and get the site contained and have me come out and inspect it. And then I'll definitely be out for a stormwater inspection when the infiltration systems go in.
So if I understand you right, Charlotte, the building department is at fault here?
Unfortunately, that
You
appears to
don't
be the
have to
case.
answer that question, Charlotte. It seems pretty obvious that the building department really screwed this up. The applicant should have known better as well. And the builder and whoever designed this. This is a really awful situation to have developed. I mean, everybody can't plead ignorance here. I mean, there's at least 4 different entities that are responsible for evading essentially our regulations. I'd be happy to see a fine for this.
Charlotte.
I don't know
Did-
about a fine only because this, from my perspective, it appears to be an internal error. So I don't, yeah. Unfortunately, this was usually for residential permits and commercial permits. Conservation has 2 sign-offs, conservation and stormwater. A little confusing, but conservation means for wetlands, stormwater, obviously stormwater. And there's no button I'm aware of in Permitize that automatically adds those sign-offs. They're added manually. So one of my comments to address this internally for this permit and moving forward is to just put every sign-off on every residential and commercial building permit application so that all the boards and departments can consistently review things.
So Charlotte, I'm looking at the screenshot from the permit history. Is this particular? I just see. What do we have? Trying to make sense of it. There's dozens of permits filed here.
Yeah, so the actually, Paul, if you're okay with me taking over the screen, I can pull
Yeah.
that up.
Absolutely.
So this is this residential permit on the bottom in May 13th, 2024. That was the house addition permit. So resi means residential in terms of like a building permit. I think this may have been the separate mudroom. So both of these sorry, that's the certificate of occupancy. I apologize. So this permit at the time did not trigger a stormwater bylaw. The permit. All these other permits are related to utilities.
Yeah.
The one here, if you guys can see my mouse, the May,
Yes.
yeah, that was the garage permit. And unfortunately, that one did not include conservation's sign-offs.
But that would
Um,
have by itself
Yes,
required
correct.
a stormwater, just so it's
It
not
would have
an issue.
required at least administrative, unless the 5,000 square foot alteration threshold was triggered, but in this case it was with the driveway and all the other work. So that's why a full stormwater permit was needed.
So it's not that it was like piecemealed, it would have required it just for the garage. That's
The
what I'm just
garage, the
getting from.
driveway, and the other stormwater
Right.
management, yes, that put the total alteration, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but minus the additions, that still put the permit over 5,000 square feet of land alteration.
Yes,
Charlotte,
yeah,
I'm sorry, how in the world was the construction crew out there without silt socks?
I do not know.
The permit didn't require, and don't our permits require a silt sock?
They do. And unfortunately, this was, my sign off and review was not included before this permit was issued.
So meanwhile, the neighbor gets flooded.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Sediment
What's the,
discharge.
that was clearly from the pictures, very heavy rain, but is there ongoing issues with the neighbors? With flooding?
Paul, can you weigh in on that? Since the last storm event in July, have there been any complaints or issues on the site that you're aware of when you guys were out there, or that the applicant spoke about, or?
not that I'm aware of. And we signed on in, I don't know, maybe September to this project. So if there was anything between that period, I wasn't made aware of it. But I believe that was the main incident just due to the volume of rain.
Yeah, it was like 3.5 inches of rain.
Yeah, though I do believe their pictures included just some ponding on the property from another separate rainstorm.
Mhm.
So
Well, this is an odd one. What else do we know about this? So what was the there was some trees removed. Obviously, this is not not a wetlands permit, but still like to hear
Yeah.
about tree removal. So what was at least what one
Oh,
large
sorry,
tree?
Mr. Chair, sorry, I didn't see this while my screen was being shared, but they're like, would it be possible for us to come off mute? Can we speak? The Goings have been able to connect, and so I just promoted them to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you,
Please, sir.
can you all hear us?
Yep, yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank goodness.
Thank
It's,
you.
we've been
Sorry.
trying very
Sorry, I
difficult,
couldn't
but
see you with my
no,
screen share.
No problem, Charlotte. And that's the picture of my lovely daughter who we're visiting in LA. Just to give you, first off, Paul's description of the project was exactly spot on. I do want to just emphasize that the objection picture was from that July 10th flood when we got 3.5 inches of rain, unfortunately. So it was not only our property that had water issues, but 3A and a lot of other places, I think, had water issues. The building on the detached garage started about 3 weeks ago. It's gone up pretty quickly, but it's just a garage, so there's not anything, detailed, fancy or anything like that needs to be put in. So progress has gone quickly. There was certainly no intent to piecemeal the project in any sort of a way.
Who the builder is.
We have been using from the very beginning a builder by the name of John Detweiler with Buttonwood Renovations, who's based over in Norwood. Norwell, excuse me. He and his team have been doing the work on the renovation of the house. Which was really a gutting of the interior. There was only minimal additional square footage put on, but they were involved in the demolition phase of taking out the existing tarmac driveway that the prior owners had put in there. I can't tell you an issue regarding the silt socking of the site. I would have assumed that the builder would have known what the requirements were. I read through the green sheet building permit for the for the house and frankly for the garage. And I don't recall there being something in that building permit saying that there needed to be silt socking. Perhaps that's just common sense and it should have been done, but I'm not a builder by trade. So I trusted that John Detweiler's construction folks would know whether erosion control measures needed to be put in place or not.
And we did go before the building department on this because originally the
But that was a while ago, and
I
it
know,
was
but-
about the setback.
It
Ultimately,
was.
it's the setback of the garage.
yes, but in essence, we did have the discussion of building the garage, and if there was any, requirements, one would hope that that would have been a time also that they would have told us exactly what was necessary.
My ultimate point here is that we recognize that there was an issue with the stormwater. There was before we ever bought the property. I submitted a picture to Charlotte showing a week before the closing that there was a significant water issue there. So it's something that we wanted to address and fully intended to address all along. Nobody brought it to our attention that this was a requirement, that if you disturb X number of square feet of soil, that you need to get a stormwater permit, whether full scale or something less than a full scale permit. But it was something that we felt needed to be done for our benefit, but also for the condo's benefit and surrounding abutters of the property, et cetera. And so when I found out after talking with Paul that it was a requirement given the amount of disturbed land, that certainly was the green light for Paul to put together, as he said earlier in his presentation, to put together a proper stormwater management system so that we could finally address what is clearly a long neglected situation.
Thanks.
Thank
I
you.
don't think we can necessarily hold the Mr. Going responsible for this. I mean, he engaged a contractor that obviously should have known better and has failed him miserably.
Yeah, agreed that the homeowner in this situation is, I think administratively there was an error. And yeah, the builder should have known. The question is, I guess, Charlotte, what's our course of action here? What if this, I mean, the system is in and we have, the calculations that there's going to be a reduction, but there was a stormwater issue. I mean, obviously we would have looked at it more closely in, a typical situation prior to the work happening. So
Just a point of clarification, Chris, the stormwater activity or the implementation, let's say, of the plan that Paul shared with you earlier, that has not yet begun. We're waiting just for the green light from this commission, and then we're going to immediately start later this week putting in silt sock around the entire perimeter, the silt fence along the northern part of the property, and then
Okay.
putting in the dry wells.
understood. Okay.
Thank you, Michael. That was going to be my recommendation to the commission to just, issue an after the fact stormwater permit, but with the condition that the silt sock and silt fence and all erosion controls construction entrance be installed either ASAP by a certain time, whatever we think is appropriate. And I can come out to inspect those and kind of just do, a later pre-construction site visit where we would normally inspect limit of work and everything like that. So I think if the erosion controls, the silt sock, the silt fence and the construction entrance are installed really quickly before, the rest of the work is finished and the driveway work starts and things like that, I think that can help tidy up the site, get everything under control. And then you guys have your after the fact permit to work through the rest of the stormwater management work that Paul has put on the plan.
And I've communicated with the person who's going to be implementing the plan, subject to Paul and Charlotte's oversight, and he's just waiting for the green light to.
Rosanna.
Oh, it's Rosanna Davis.
Exactly. No,
Okay.
it's Vinny.
Vinny, yeah.
Tito.
Okay.
Thank
Yep.
you. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Other commissioners, questions or comments?
Yes.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Yes, I'm wondering, after you have the stormwater system in place, will that solve the problem of the water running to the neighbor's driveway and ponding there? I
I'm
mean,
gonna
it's on a
jump
hill,
in.
so you're gonna get some, but
It
I
doesn't.
would think that the stormwater system that you put in might solve that problem.
I'll leave to Paul to offer his professional opinion based upon the filtration rates, et cetera, that they got from the test pit and observations, et cetera. But I think it will very significantly alleviate the stormwater problems. I don't know if we get another 3.5 inches of rain kind of day like we did on that July 10th. It may overwhelm any system that's put in place. But I think for the normal type of rainfall that we would expect to experience, I think the system will alleviate it. We're going to put in a gravel trench around the house, also around the garage, so that it catches the rainwater coming off the roof. The sump pump will also be tied into the system so that that will go into the dry well system. Some grading on the property, I think, will also help alleviate the issue. Quite frankly, there's also a significant issue because the small berm that goes along the side of Forest Avenue is, let's say, not as robust as it should be. So we get a lot of water coming down the hill towards the ocean that should go down the hill, but ends up coming into our property. I'd like to be able to address it, and maybe I need to talk with the Department of Public Works about increasing that berm. But I think the plan should go a very, very long way towards alleviating the problem.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, anything that you want to add from a professional point of view?
Not too much, just to say that, the topography on site basically is sloped, like I said, at the southern portion of Forest Ave. It basically slopes perpendicular or parallel to the road, just directly south towards that abutting lot. But yeah, we're like, this project again is decreasing impervious. It's decreasing a paved driveway that used to drain onto that parking lot, and replacing it with a pervious driveway. Like almost all of the new impervious is going to that drywall chamber system. So yeah, we're expecting a significant reduction of runoff, as well as proposing some protections for that catch basin that's there on that abutting right of way that kind of drains back across Mr. McGowan's property to Forest Ave.
Okay.
The detail of see the plan again and see the detail of the driveway construction, please.
Sure. I believe I am sharing. Let me know if everyone can see.
Yeah, I can see it, Paul. And there's the crushed stone driveway detail right in the middle.
Yeah, could you shift it so we can see it and plan a little bit better?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
So here, just to orient on the site, here's this shared driveway that provides access to all these houses to the west.
Mhm.
That's where the new driveway will be coming off of to access the garage. Here is the previous paved driveway that came in off this 18-foot right-of-way and shared an access point with the northern abutters. So we're removing that access point and moving it down to the south.
Oh, I see. So, so do you, I'm kind of looking at the topography here. It looks as if you're going to get some flow down your new driveway here. Is that?
Yeah, which is one of the reasons we wanted to make sure it was going to be pervious and use
Impervious.
pervious to let the water flow through and manage it more properly than just having it cascade down the driveway.
And what if it's feasible to, could you zoom in a little bit on the contours, please?
Certainly. So it levels out quite a bit at the edge near the actual driveway.
Yeah, I'm interested about the
get
top,
some-
the top of the driveway. If you're taking on water from that right of way, seems like it would be advantageous to be able to divert it somehow.
The right of way that is at the bottom of the screen, that's a right of way, as Paul mentioned, for the benefit of the houses to the west of our property. And I do think that there is a possibility that that right of way, which is in rough shape, let's put it that way, could be benefited by having again, another small berm on the north side. In other words, the side that's closer to the house.
Yeah.
And perhaps channeling that water out onto Forest Avenue, where it would get caught by that storm drain right about where the S and the T is of Forest.
Yeah.
Right now, we're getting, I mentioned earlier, we're getting flow from Forest, and it's coming over the inadequate berm about roughly where that storm drain is.
So obviously then the storm drain is undersized for somewhat undersized for the flow that normally occurs there.
No, I think my guess would be that it's probably appropriately sized. I think what the problem is that the water, because of the topography, tends to go towards the left and go onto our property. Whereas if there was a proper small berm along the side of the road, as there is on most of Forest Avenue, I think it would channel it into that storm drain.
Yeah.
So I think we're not getting as much utilization of that storm drain. We collectively, the community, we're not getting as much utilization of that storm drain because the berm isn't directing water over towards it.
Mr. Gunn, would you scoot it over a little bit? Let's look at your test pits.
Oh, sure.
You just
So we
have
have a
one,
test-
is that right? Just
Yep,
where you're
just-
gonna put it, okay,
Yeah, the only in the spot where we're proposing or designing around infiltration.
yeah. So there's an awful lot of bedrock here, pretty close to surface. Did you know how much farther? You went down 66 inches, is that right? So,
Yes.
And-
To be perfectly honest, I'm not sure if Greg Morse hit refusal at 66 and that's why he stopped.
yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised at how loamy it was, because in other parts of the property there
Yeah.
is either ledge or bedrock or large stones. And certainly in the area of the property, sort of the northeast corner where Greg dug the test pit, I was pleasantly surprised at how loamy it was. And I also, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, the dry wells are not that deep. I mean, they're not like 4 foot, 5 foot high dry wells. I think they're more on the size of 1 foot, 18 inches, something like that. Is that correct?
Yes, we're proposing Caltech R150s, which are 18.5 inches tall.
yeah, you need to be 24 inches off of your 48, at 48 inches, you had saw modeling and weeping, so you're just above, you need to be 2 feet above that groundwater level for it to
Yep.
work, so.
Yeah, we have
Can't be
2
any-
feet to the bottom of stone.
Yeah, so you couldn't make it
100%.
any deeper if you wanted to, so.
No, no.
You're stuck with that groundwater situation and yeah, I guess I'm just concerned about the neighbors there. You know, unfortunately, everybody that's downhill from somebody else has to deal with runoff from the properties that are uphill from them. But anything you can do to capture that and infiltrate it, or better yet, even route it down a storm drain, because these things don't work terribly well when the ground is already saturated. So anything that can be routed to those storm drains is advantageous. So what is the so you have an invert on this thing. I don't quite see where I see the inspection port and all that. Is there an overflow to this?
So it's modeled to, yeah, so I modeled the inspection port as the lowest overflow. But
Okay.
even then it's designed to essentially, at least per the model, contain the majority of the 100-year over that 24-hour 100-year.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, I would say that the time period that we've owned the property, I don't know that there has been runoff onto the northern abutters property other than that torrential July 10th storm that we had.
In all honesty.
The property currently has sort of swales built into them, or over time have just developed that way, which effectively capture the water in our property in the northwest corner and the northeast corner. And so I think up to this point, at least during our ownership, it's been only that July deluge that created runoff onto the northern abutter. So climate change, yeah, we probably will have more severe rains in the future, but hopefully nothing along those lines when you get a month's worth of rain in one day.
How long have you lived there?
We bought the property in April of 2024.
Yeah, that's,
But we lived in Marshfield Hills for a number of years before then, so familiar with the local weather patterns and nor'easters.
yeah. Thanks.
Anything else, Tom?
No, not really.
Um,
Mr.
Steve?
Chair, we have, oh, sorry. I think you're still going through commission comments.
yeah, Steve, anything? Questions, comments?
You're muted, Steve.
My usual problem. Prior to your building, obviously the exit for the property was into the parking lot of the condominium and then out to the street. How is that drive sloped there where it went out to the street? Does that slope towards the street? And was that storm drain, the fact that there's a broken pipe in the storm drain, responsible for the ponding at that point in the last storm? Since it obviously couldn't drain if it was broken.
I can respond to that. So the existing, prior to construction, that paved drive was graded towards the northern abutter. You can see about contour about 44 down to 43 to the north. We don't believe the broken drain pipe was responsible. We kind of know it is because when we were doing the test pit, we nicked the top of it. So that's why we're calling it out to be repaired. It was just the top of it we found while doing our test pit. And Greg Morris thought it would be best just to replace that section. So that wouldn't have been involved in the prior instances of flooding.
I see, okay.
I-
The other question about the storm drain is that storm drain seems to be lower than the drain in Forest Avenue. I was wondering how the water actually goes from one to the other.
I think the catch basin in Forest is quite deep.
Okay.
I was just going to say, Paul's exactly correct. When Greg did the test pit, his backhoe or his mini excavator clipped the top, and the top was PVC piping, a large PVC piping. So Greg had mentioned that he thought that that pipe had been broken at some point in the future, or excuse me, some point in the past, and that somebody had repaired it, putting in sort of an inside sleeve, if you will, of PVC, but thought, let's go ahead, put it on the plan that Paul's presented today and get it fixed as part of the digging work and project.
I see. Well, thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Steve?
No,
Charlotte, did you want to address the Q&A section, or what do we have here?
Yes, so we have one comment. They have not provided their name and address, but they are raising their hand. So do you want me to read the comment, or do you think it's just better to ask them to speak and then just confirm their name and address?
Yeah, just ask them their name and address first,
Okay.
please.
Hi, I saw you had a comment, and we can read it word for word, but can you also confirm your name and address, or you're welcome to re-summarize your comment?
Hi, I'm Pierre Berthon, and I live in the abutting property, and we've been here for 3+ years, and many other people have been in the property for a lot longer, up to 25 years, and we've never experienced the runoff. In fact, before then we've had no runoff from the other property. But since the construction, we've had this and consistent small amounts of runoff. And I mean, water just sits in that property the whole time. Essentially what's being added is, as far as I understand, is just capacitor. So you're just putting in additional storage area in the hope that it drains out before the next lot of rain. But yeah, it's, as I say, the changes have produced significant runoff into our property, which there was never there before. And I should add that unfortunately my significant other didn't take a picture, but the water was literally within millimeters of going into our basement. And if it goes into the basement, then we've got electrical problems, we've got gas problems, we've got serious problems if it gets into our basement.
Charlotte, can I speak?
Mr. Chair?
Sorry, yes. Well, yeah, I would suggest having Paul address that, and yes, and then the applicant, the owner, can speak for sure.
Certainly. So, one of the reasons why erosion controls are so important is that runoff is often exacerbated during construction because you're dealing with often bare, uncompacted soil, which, one of the reasons that woods and therefore grass are produce lower rates of runoff is because it, one, slows the water down, but two, promotes infiltration, and the stabilizing presence of vegetation can reduce things like sedimentation. So that's why erosion controls during construction are so important, is because bare earth is pretty much the last thing you want when dealing with runoff. So we totally understand that concern. We're quite confident that the erosion controls we propose will be significantly helpful, as well as the fact that the post-construction characteristics of the site, especially once it's stabilized with loams and seed and the stormwater system is active, is that the construction phase runoff would not be characteristic of the post-construction phase runoff, especially since we are ultimately decreasing impervious across the site.
And during that flood event, was that before or after the storm drain was broken, or
That was before. I believe that storm was in was that in July?
Yeah.
The bad storm was on July 10th.
Yes, our test bit was done on August 26th.
Okay.
So
And 3A was closed.
And the storm drain that's noted on the northern part of the property there was working. It was just frankly overwhelmed by the volume of water. And if you look at the pictures of the parking lot of the northern abutters, you can see in the grass area ahead of where the cars are all parked, the grass area is absolutely saturated to the point that you can see the water ponding there. And that was not because of runoff from our property, because you can see the pond of water around the cars is disconnected from the water that's coming from our property and trying to go down that storm drain on the northern side of the property. So I recognize that July 10th was an anomaly, I hope. But the water that, at least the water situation that the condominium people experienced on July 10th was not because of the contours of our property or the construction activity that was going on. It was just simply an amazing amount of water that came down in a very short period of time. And I think it's fair to say that the contour of that northern abutter is a very flat piece of property. And so it would not take that much water. Certainly what happened on July 10th was sufficient to potentially cause problems for them.
And the whole town, I mean, they closed 3A
Yeah.
that day. It was so bad.
Yeah.
If you all recall.
Understood. I'm curious, Mr. Berthon, if that event was what you're referring to with the flooding, or if you're referring to additional, if you've been having continuous runoff.
That was the main event. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that was the main event, but we've had runoff from the property before. As I say, you know, it's never happened before. So clearly these changes have caused it. And you know, how do we know? I mean, you know, so you know, the engineers, I'm sure, have done a good job. But the point is that it's sort of it's what you're saying. We hope this will be good enough. What we, you know, saying is, look, this is never experienced before. What if it's not good enough? What if this continues?
Well,
We hear you.
if I could make two comments. One, if you look in the northeast corner of our property, we are planning on having a garden that basically tracks the perimeter of the property there. So I think that will also help for all the reasons that Paul mentioned in terms of reducing runoff and increasing, you know, absorption, et cetera, et cetera. The other comment I would make is, how does anybody have a guarantee that an approved stormwater system will work? I'm sure many systems have been approved by this committee, and let's hope that they all work. But the environment is a dynamic and changing thing. Climate change is something that everyone on this call is certainly well aware of. Storms are getting more violent, more rain is being dumped. And practically speaking, I think it's unfortunately a sure bet that previously approved stormwater management systems are going to unfortunately be overwhelmed by the volume of water that we experience because of the increasing severity of the storms.
Yeah.
I think what Paul has put together is a good plan. I think it will stop the water migrating. I think it will manage it in an appropriate way. But can I give a guarantee? No, I think I would be being false.
But we really want to make sure, Pierre, that it doesn't affect you. And that is, you know, we're not blithely going along and not considering our neighbors and everyone else. We don't want to be the prize in the neighborhood. We want it to work and to be successful. So please know that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, from my side, I don't know if you can hear me, but from my side, I appreciate it, and I'm sure you're doing everything. It's just as I said, you know, the building started, and then we got this large amount of rain, and I mean, as I say, I mean, it completely overwhelmed all the drains in our property, and came within, you know, a millimeter of flooding our basement. Of which, you know, it's obviously highly concerning to us, because going forward, we're guaranteed to get, you know, storms like this in the future. And, you know, with the additional coverage, is the storage capacity going to be sufficient? You know, everyone can sort of say, well, we hope so, but, you know, it's us who carries the can at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, we hear you. And unfortunately, what we have now is, you know, the standards that, you know, we keep our projects to, and what they've demonstrated with their plan is that they're reducing impervious on the property, and they're addressing the added structure with the, you know, with this infiltration system, and that's all that we can ask. Climate change is, all systems we'll probably have to adjust the standards at some point, but right now we have these standards. So those are the standards that we hold our projects to. And they are designed as Paul Gunn explained, to meet what right now is referred to as the 100-year storm. So I think that's all we can say.
I
to that.
don't think that was a 100-year storm. I think that was a probably 2 or 3 year storm we had.
Yeah, and the system wasn't installed yet, so hopefully once the system's in, you won't see that, and it's designed for that. So those are the standards that we hold the projects to, and they've, I think, demonstrated to the commission that it will, with test pits, that it will work, and that's all we can do, unfortunately. But again, the system is not installed yet, so once it's in, hopefully you shouldn't see that type of flood anymore.
And if we do?
Well, then we'll have to address that. If we do, I'm not sure what you mean. What would we reopen this permit? No, it would have to be addressed some other way.
I think, Chris, I think if we're in that kind of a situation, everyone who happens to be living on a hill and who's not living at the top of the hill will be having the same kinds of problems. We'll be getting overwhelmed with the amount of water coming from Spindrift, which is abutting to the south. And we'll be in probably the same kind of boat that the condominium to the north of us is in. Unfortunately, we happen to be downhill from everybody else. And if we're having this kind of 100-year storms every 3 or 4 years, I think probably the specifications that required for these kind of stormwater management systems and some sort of community-wide system to try and address what in that situation would be a real big problem for the entire community would have to be somehow fashioned.
Yeah.
Mr. Gunn,
But
is it feasible? I see that this broken PVC drain runs from a public road to actually a driveway. And would it be feasible to tie the invert to that pipe? So if your Caltech system was full, it doesn't just discharge to the ground again, that it actually gets directly routed to that storm drain.
Yeah, so from a purely engineering standpoint, certainly, the inverts and the slopes would work. I don't know if I would have to discuss that with DPW because it connects to that
would.
municipal drain.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul, you would. I know the director of DPW has allowed certain drainage connections to municipal catch basins, but I do not know the process for it. I think it's a case-by-case basis. So there wouldn't necessarily be a guarantee that that might be approved. I know it's been approved in a few other properties, but I don't know how the DPW assesses that.
wouldn't it go to the storm drain that's on the private property though?
Yes.
Is that?
That's my point, is that unless the town has a legal easement that that broken PVC pipe, I don't think they have jurisdiction. Who's to stop you from tying into it? I mean, I would approach the DPW. I think that's the right way to go. But
I mean, yeah, I'm certainly happy to look into it. I think that would be, it's something at least it's worth pursuing. I think so. I'm happy to reach out to the DPW and.
I mean, that's a way to deal with situations where your Caltech system is overwhelmed, either because the ground's already saturated or whatever, but right now it's going to discharge right back to the surface and flow south, or flow north rather. And
Yeah.
maybe it'll go down the drain, maybe it won't. But I think that if you were to be able to tie into that existing drain pipe, assuming that there is capacity there to handle that overflow, then it wouldn't necessarily solve the problem in an extreme rainstorm, but it might alleviate any chance that say a 5-year storm or a 10-year storm would cause a problem for the downstream abutters.
Certainly.
I think it's an excellent idea, and would encourage pursuing DPW to see if they would be aligned with that, and perhaps Pierre, that would give you some additional level of comfort that that the system would in fact be able to handle those kind of high volume rain events.
And that is, and I just would point out that that's going over and above what we require. And so I think that'd be a real goodwill gesture on Going's part to do that, if it's feasible.
Thank you. The last thing that I had questions about is there's been some tree removal, and although this isn't a wetlands permit hearing, is there any plan to replace trees with this project?
There is plans to replace trees. I can say that on the the southern part of the property, where the right-of-way was, there was a tree taken down there. It was a 100-foot plus dead ash tree. There was over on the western side, one of the trees taken out, not the two that have the red X's, but another dead ash tree. I guess the, what is it? The ash borer has unfortunately done quite amount of work here. And in the northwestern corner of the property, there was also another dead ash tree. The two trees that have the X's on them, one, I believe, was the larger of the two, I think was some variety of an apple, but I'm not positive of that. It had been neglected for quite a while, and the smaller of the two trees, I think, was an ash tree. It was not yet dead, but it had signs that it had been attacked by the ash borer, in that there was some sort of white streaking where it looked like the ash borer had created some channels underneath the bark. And so they felt that it was just a matter of time before they were going to go. That's just background regarding the trees that were removed. Yes, we're planning on planting trees. The budget yet, we don't know what the final cost is going to be, but we plan on replacing trees up in the northwest corner of the property. I mentioned in the northeast corner, the planting of gardens up there, and then trees, some subject to where the driveway will be, probably closer to the house there would be a good place to put in trees. And then in the southeast corner, there'll be some more decorative trees. There's already a very large maple tree that's in that southeast corner.
Excellent. Yeah. I would just note that, trees have another asset in terms of those large rainstorms. When they have large canopy trees, they hold water and can slow that those short high volume rain events, and would be another good way to reduce those flooding from those types
Absolutely.
of storms. So
Absolutely.
I would suggest, and even if you're okay with it, we could condition it that you work with Charlotte on our native tree planting list.
Would love it.
Excellent.
I've already been consulting artificial intelligence to find out what are the native plants and shrubs that we could put into the garden there.
Good. That's all I had. Any other comments or questions, commissioners? Charlotte, do you have any proposed draft conditions for this hearing?
I do. I was just typing the last one up and I can pull those up now.
Thank you.
Sorry, give me 1 second. This is a stormwater permit, so that's kind of why I'm saying should. I'm going to come back to that. But before I read the conditions, given the erosion control situation, does the commission want a certain deadline? I just wrote as soon as possible, or do you want me to replace it with by a certain date? It sounds like the applicant already has a contractor who they're going to work with to install those.
How soon could they be installed, Mr. Going? Mr.
I think they will start tomorrow. If you could give us, just because I want to make sure, I'm unfortunately in Los Angeles visiting my daughter.
Mhm.
But I think by next Wednesday would be a
Okay.
comfortable date next Wednesday to have the silt sock around the perimeter of the property and then the silt fence along the northern side.
Okay.
Okay. This is next Friday, so giving you
Okay.
a little over a week. And I can issue
Thank
the after the fact stormwater permit tomorrow morning,
Okay.
so that you guys can have that. Either you or Vinny, actually, sorry, you mentioned you're away, so maybe Vinny could grab it and start working on the erosion controls and stuff, and I'll come out to inspect everything.
Thank you,
Perfect.
Charlotte.
Thanks, Charlotte. Appreciate all of your help.
Thank you. Great. So I'll do that. And then I wrote shall is obviously like, I mean, I think we can say should here just because, you know, as Tom kind of mentioned, we technically cannot really require this to, you know, be a part of it, especially if any property permissions or permissions from the town need to be obtained. So I'm changing this to should, and I can read the conditions unless commissioners want to correct me. No? Okay. So I wrote 5 conditions here. This would be in addition to our standard template on a stormwater permit, which has a list of required inspections for stormwater and, you know, permits. So the erosion control barriers, construction entrance, and all other site controls shall be installed as soon as possible by November 14th, 2025, given the ongoing construction work on the site authorized by the previously issued building permits to mitigate and prevent any future erosion and sedimentation originating from the site. The required stormwater inspections for the permit shall also include a site inspection of the pervious driveway before and after all pervious layers are installed, and an inspection of the repaired existing drainage pipe. The applicant and their engineer should consult with the DPW and abutters to determine any necessary permissions to connect the overflow for the proposed subsurface infiltration system to the northerly catch basin to further mitigate overflow runoff conditions. Should permissions be obtained and the solution be feasible, the commission shall receive an updated site plan as well as provided, any updated stormwater calculations. So if this is a solution and it's feasible and viable and everyone can do it, we would just want to see an updated plan to reflect that.
Excellent.
The applicant is encouraged to consult with DPW to consider any municipal stormwater management improvements to Forest Ave regarding existing stormwater runoff from Forest Ave. And then the applicant shall work with the agent to replace any felled trees with native shade trees as much as possible on the property as an additional nature-based solution to improve existing stormwater and groundwater runoff conditions. All native trees should come from the commission's approved planting lists. And condition 4 is not like you're not required to do this in terms of you're not going to pay for it. It's just we're encouraging you to have those conversations with DPW to see if there's anything else the town can do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. Then, if the applicant's good with those, any commissioners have any additions or comments on those conditions? Okay, then I make a motion to close the public hearing for the after the fact stormwater permit 25-15 at 350 Forest Ave and issue a stormwater permit with our standard special conditions and the conditions previously shown on the screen and read into the record by our conservation agent. Do I have a second?
Tom Bell, second.
Thank you. We'll now take a roll call vote. Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
and Chris McIntyre, aye. That vote passes 4-0, and stormwater permit hearing is now closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And I'll get you guys that permit tomorrow morning.
I'll tell Vinny to stop by the office, and I want to thank everyone on the commission for giving us an opportunity to present our case.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So much.
Welcome.
Okay, next up, we have NOI 25-21, continued from October 23rd for 33 and 37 Stanton Road, 294 and 300 South Main Street, and 33 Cedar Lane for ecological restoration for the removal of Phragmites spanning multiple properties along the Gulf River by Snook, Carter, Johnston, and Murphy. Charlotte, and then there we go. Go ahead. Tanner. We got anyone? We have Tanner tonight. Anyone else from the team?
Nope, just me.
Yes.
All right. Welcome,
Oh,
Tanner.
sorry. I was like, hi, Tanner. We see two of you. It looks
Yeah,
like
sorry. I got the message finally. I just decided to join from my phone this week.
there you go.
Now, for the record, Tanner Poole, Associate Project Manager at Solitude Lake Management.
Okay. Welcome. So you get updates or new approach, new scope to share with us?
Not much. I mean, after the last hearing, we kind of came to a decision that we would kind of set up like a trial. So we would kind of do trial plots and use smaller areas to kind of get a good consensus of how this process would work completely. And we would kind of wait to treat or manage the larger area that kind of resided in the middle of all the Phragmites. I know there were some comments that we needed to kind of answer for Charlotte on the WPA form and the I think WPA form, and then a couple of just like our other questions that she needed to proceed with the project, and then we submit those, and that's kind of where we are now.
Okay. Charlotte, do you want to pull up the new plan, or Tanner, can you share? Look at the new approach or the new areas or the reduced areas.
I actually don't have a map of those areas, to be honest with you.
I
I'm
can
sorry.
pull it up. If it's the same map as what was originally submitted, I did clarify which areas would be treated in draft conditions, but I can pull it up for visual reference.
If you could, please. Thank you.
Let's see, just gotta find when they were submitted. There we go. Oh, wait. Sorry, just give it a little bit to load here. There we go. So we at the last hearing had talked about only doing these isolated areas. So there's 4 of them total. So first one here is well, it's the same owner, but it's it's like a 0 Cedar Lane parcel, but this is 33 Cedar Lane, so it's owned by the same person. So this area would be treatment area 1. And then zooming in here on 37 and 33 Stanton. So there's 2 isolated areas here on the other side of a dock. So 1, 2 here. And then this is the 4th area on 33 Stanton. And the commission at the last hearing had said that they, at this time, are not interested in seeing any herbicide treatment in this larger area between 294 and 300 South Main Street.
I would correct that, Charlotte. I would say
I will.
that the large one there that's separated by the dock, that's all part of the same thing.
Oh, okay, so you don't want that one? Okay.
I would say, in fact, I think we were just talking about the 2 ends here. I could be wrong, but
Okay.
we were talking about the one on the north end and the one on the south end.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I can do that. Yeah, I when we said isolated areas, I picked quite literally the ones that were literally isolated. So there were 4.
Yeah.
Before we just go on, just Will Ashton, now here for this hearing, so he can vote on this, right?
Will
Yes,
Ashton,
and
President.
Will, thank you, Will. And you
Yeah.
did watch the recording from the last hearing and submitted a missed meeting certificate.
Yes.
All right, so we now have a quorum of 5. So, yeah, we left off at, being open to the possibility of, trying the approach on the smaller portions. This plan will include reseeding of native as well, right? Correct?
Yes.
And what are we talking about for trial period? Do we have a duration of this project? What is it up in the air still? How long it would take to be effective, or what?
I assume this would be kind of like a 1-year trial period where we kind of just come through, do the assessment, kind of get a gist of what species are found in these areas, including the Phragmites. We do our normal survey in early summer, and we come in and do a herbicide treatment in the late summer and around late August, early September. We come back and cut the Phragmites stalks that are remaining, and then we would come back again in the spring to do another survey to kind of assess were any of the native plants affected, or are we still finding the plants that were first found in the initial assessment? Are they still present? And kind of go from there. And that way we could just say, hey, the herbicide treatment is affecting native species. We don't want to continue with this, or hey, this has shown kind of
Yeah.
good progress. We want to expand on the other larger areas.
And what's the kind of, is it strictly just like a visual assessment, or is there some sort of methodology in terms of doing a quantitative assessment of the native, like determination of,
Yeah. Now we were planning on just coming in and doing kind of just like a visual inspection. I know there was talks in the last hearing about possibly having like a wetland scientist, kind of a third party, possibly even Goddard, who's assisting me with this project, to come in and kind of do a kind of like an account to kind of document all the species found.
Mm-hmm.
There's somebody a little bit more in depth of a survey type of, that would conduct a little bit more of an in-depth survey to accurately record all the species in the area.
Yes. Yeah. And is that the plan, or is that just maybe?
That is the plan.
Okay.
I kind of expected to see something formalized here, not just sort of a casual conversation about what you're going to do. I mean, there should have been documents submitted before this. You should have had an experimental plan designed. You should have identified precisely where you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, who's going to do the assessments. This is all pretty casual here. I don't see how the commission could entertain any sort of consideration of this without something a little bit more concrete than you calling on the phone and saying, yeah, we're going to do this or we're going to do that.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I think the expectation was, is that we'd have a more robust kind of plan in place in terms of both the planting and the the assessment, and that it would be in a reduced area, and that's something that we would entertain. I'm just kind of hearing, yeah, that's what we're going to do, but we can't approve something like that unless we have it documented and
I think one of the things that they had to confirm is that if the homeowners were on board with doing like an experiment first, and that is what Tanner confirmed. But I think if that's what, it sounds like that's what the commission's looking for more finalized plans. So Tanner, if you want to just maybe have a quick continuance to the next meeting to update your management plan, because your management plan currently calls out for 3 years of treatment. So if you want to resubmit that, we can look at it again. And then I don't know if Chris is able to update the plans on screen here to just take out all the areas except, Tom, you just wanted this one small area up here for Cedar Lane and then this one down here at the end. Do all commissioners agree on that?
Well, this is an experiment and.
I know, yeah.
And it's not an incremental.
Yeah.
Way into treating the whole thing here.
Right.
And so without having seen it, and I don't think it's necessary for me to see it, but I would think that your wetland scientist, Mr. Poole, should be out there and he should select the best place to conduct this experiment, and it should be pretty limited in scope.
Okay.
So maybe only one of these.
Okay.
But it definitely has to be documented. I mean, you have to have a plan for this. You can't just say, well, yeah, we're going to do it just the way we always do it or whatever. I mean, you got to have a plan for your you have a monitoring plan, existing conditions report of some sort. Doesn't have to be all that exhaustive, particularly if it's one of these small areas. But there has to be some documentation here.
I mean, there was going to be documentation. I mean, in the previous management plan that I had proposed, we were doing a survey which was going to list
but you're
all.
going to do it different. You're proposing something different here. You're going to run an experiment, and you're
Right.
going to convince us that, in fact, that the risks here are low, and that there's no collateral damage in what you're doing.
Right.
And to move forward with a much larger plan, this has to be pretty convincing. So you've got to have I think you've got to have a pretty watertight plan of what you're going to do, and it has to be literally on paper. So it's good that some of at least one of the applicants here is willing to host this experiment, but we'd need a letter from them confirming that. And so, you need to get your ducks in a row here, I think, and I don't see it yet.
Understood. I guess I was under the wrong pretense, so I apologize for my actions in this meeting.
Yeah, no, it's I think having the wetland scientist here to and documenting what that's going to look like, both the native planting, we get the herbicide part, that piece. It's the other things that we want to see, and the updated plan. I think I'd be open to doing both ends of it, and potentially that way it's like two areas, so it's a little bit more of a. I'd be open to both ends. That's all I'm saying. Like the furthest section and the lower section, but that's.
Yeah, if there's a good reason to do two separate sites, but there has to be a reason for it. It has to be thought out. There has to be a logical argument of what you're going to do, why you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, and when you're going to do it.
Okay.
Steve, you're mute.
The management plan seems to only be focused on what has been done and what are the results of doing that. It doesn't focus at all on the effects on the surrounding area. And any test should do that, and you should be actually monitoring both the upland and the Gulf sides of the area around the Phragmites, because that's one of the things we're interested in, is what is the effect on the parts that aren't being treated. So that needs to be included in whatever the experimental description is.
And I can, Tanner, I'm happy to speak with you and Chris offline about this, but what we've done for another experimental herbicide invasive restoration project in an isolated wetland was we did pre and post treatment vegetative classification surveys. Or basically what we did was we ran a couple transects through the treatment areas, which was, the entire isolated wetland. And then we also took note of the species, obviously in like the buffer zone, for example. And then we had, the restoration ecologist provide a, like a pre-treatment vegetative classification survey. So we noted all the natives, invasives, et cetera. So I think in small areas like this, it sounds like, as Mr. Magnell just mentioned, like doing that for the treatment area and then on the Gulf side and on the upland side, and then having that as your base and then doing the treatment and then coming back and doing the same survey and seeing if the phragmites disappear and obviously what the damage or, risk would be to the vegetative stuff around it.
Right.
And yeah, we did transects. I don't know if your experience or Chris' experience, if you prefer random quadrat sampling, I've done it both ways, just in different environments, but the ecologist for the other restoration project preferred a transect with quadrats done like every, I think it was 15, 20 feet or something like that.
Okay. So Tanner, do you have Charlotte can follow up with what we're looking for, but do you have a better understanding what we're after here?
Yeah, I got the gist of what you're asking for.
Just for clarification, Mr. Chair, could we get, because I drafted some conditions, but I admit I also may have misheard you guys at the last hearing. I had spaced it out for the 3-year treatment, but only within the very specific areas. So I guess it sounds like the discussion was 1 year of treatment, but it sounds like maybe 2 areas could be chosen by the wetland scientist, not 1. Just so they can draft the management plan and I can draft any conditions accordingly.
If they have a good reason to use 2, yeah.
Okay. All right.
But they need to have a rationale for going beyond 1, I think. There needs to be a good reason to use 2.
Okay.
Something different about one versus the other, whatever it is.
Okay. Are there any other commissioners that had other thoughts of what they'd want to see on the updated plan, or how they'd want to set this up?
Just that, a little bit more robust of description of what's going to look like in terms of the assessment about as Tom put it, like the collateral damage of the native species and the pre and post treatment assessment. Okay. What is that going to be? Quadrats? Is it going to be?
Yeah.
Where is it going to be assessing?
There needs to be input too from the wetland scientist.
Yeah, and we're not going to design the experiment. We want them to come to us with a design experience. So, well, how long, Tanner, would you think that you need to pull that information together? Would you be ready for our next hearing is on the 20th? That's 2 weeks.
Yeah. I should be fine with that time, and if I'm not, then I will let Charlotte know. But at the moment, put me down for the 20th.
Okay.
All right. And we will continue till the 20th unless we hear otherwise.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Next up, we have the conservation fee schedule update. Charlotte, do you want to?
Yeah,
this
sorry,
up?
Mr. Chair, can I make a quick edit or can I switch around a few things? We have one property owner in the audience for a COC. Can we do that
Of
first?
course.
Okay.
Yes.
One moment. So also just for the record, I'm going to continue 2 certificates of compliance, NOI 2405 and stormwater permit 2408 for 74 Black Horse Lane, which was last discussed on 10/23. I spoke with the applicant. We're going to continue to spring 2026 when we have our 2026 schedule. And then NOI 22-12 and stormwater permit 2208 for 221 Hull Street, now 6 Grace Drive. We're going to continue that one for now to November 20th. So this one is NOI 2318 and stormwater permit 2313 for 3135 Elm Street. And we have Jason, who is the applicant. So this was a NOI and stormwater permit to redevelop the existing home, I believe from a 2-family to a single family. The structure was mostly entirely in riverfront except for the very front of the property. And so it was a raise and rebuild. The site is permanently stabilized, and I can pull up the plans. This is the as-built. So the existing home was in this similar area. This was the approved plan for reference. So it was inched a little over, a little up. There were just a few things that were not constructed. So this proposed deck is a lot smaller than the original, than the approved design. So this is the as-built design. So they didn't wrap it around, didn't do the patio. Instead of a paved driveway, they actually did a pea stone driveway, added a bluestone walkway with cobble edging, and then also did plantings around this front area. And then just some HVAC stuff was added here. And then one of the deviations that we had previously discussed before the COC was filed were the mitigation plantings. So this is the approved plan. And when this project was approved in 2023, this area was currently, when I was there, at least, it was not, the knotweed, Japanese knotweed was not really visible. But when we came back to the site 2 years later, unfortunately, there's a large infestation in this area. So I consulted Jason and we talked about, having Brad Holmes, the wetland scientist who delineated the wetlands, come look at it. Walked the site with Brad. Brad was not confident the mitigation plantings would survive. He anticipated the knotweed would continue to move further east in this entire hatched area, and the plantings would not be able to compete. However, this mitigation plan did call for the planting of 2 trees. And so we spoke about adding the trees in this area here. And the native shade trees, once they're established, can compete with the knotweed. They would just need to be kind of obviously maintained and watched over. So with that being said, we did not do the 2,200 square foot of mitigation plantings due to Brad Holmes's assessment as a wetland scientist. And the 2 trees that were planted in this area, you can see them on the as-built, they were American elms. That is pretty much it. I will just note the as-built, I had requested a few additional layers to be added. I wanted the existing tree layer and the existing elevations, of the land. In walking the site, I didn't see any significant deviations. This area still slopes down to the backyard, and this natural slope was still here as well. These trees are still here, although I will note there were a couple trees along the property line that were taken down by the neighbor with permission from me. They were hazardous and assessed by an arborist, but the rest of these trees are still here. Ledge is still here. So yeah, those are just a couple things that I would just want to see added to the as-built. And the engineer was sick today, but they said they'll get it to me tomorrow morning. And other than that, I don't have anything else to add unless Jason wants to specify anything else. And then the long-term stormwater operation and maintenance plan has already been recorded at the registry.
Nothing new to add. That was very articulate and comprehensive.
Thank you.
I'm confused about, so there was Japanese knotweed, so they didn't do any mitigation?
Yes.
Planted.
So unfortunately, when the permit was approved, the site did not really have an infestation from what I observed. I think I did observe some small shoots. But unfortunately, in 2 years, it unfortunately kind of is starting to take over. And Brad had assessed in order to take it out and successfully put in the mitigation plantings, you would need to use heavy excavation and or herbicides. And obviously that's not what this permit was called for. The mitigation plantings, there was actually a special condition to only do the plantings by hand. So it would have definitely needed either a new or an amended notice of intent to put the mitigation plantings in. And, that was a large expense that was not a part of the original project to even use heavy excavation or herbicides in this area. So Brad Holmes said you can't really put any mitigation plantings in this area. They're just going to get lost with the knotweed in the next, he said within the next like 1, maybe even 2 years, but might even be less than that, depending on how far it creeps east. But he said the trees should survive.
Well, why don't we just add more trees? If we can't do the mitigation, that'll shade out the knotweed. And they
Well, right
can-
now the
maybe we
knotweed
can
is in
cut it.
this area here. So like, again, you can't really plant trees here because obviously the knotweed's heavily right here. You maybe could get a couple more in here. But 2 was what was called out for on the plan. So that was what we moved forward with for now to see what the commission thought.
So if you can't plant the plants, but you can plant the trees, why wouldn't we just I would say add more trees, right? And
Okay. Yeah,
that'll
we-
help mitigate. I mean, that's I don't, I'm not a fan of just saying, oh, that's not, we're not going to do mitigation.
Yeah, I mean, this was the original plan. So obviously Brad did not recommend any of the shrubs or the bushes or the native seed mix. He really only said the 2 trees that were called out for on the plan should be at least planted. That was what we wanted to see, what the commission thought about this. And then if you want any additional tree plantings, then, Jason, I'll defer to you on that. But this was the original mitigation plan just had 2. But Brad didn't, recommend a certain number of trees because obviously the plan only had 2 and a bunch of shrubs and the seed mix. So if you want to maybe determine a number or something of trees, maybe we could get a few more in here. Right now, the 2 elms are right here. And maybe, I don't know, I mean, the mitigation plantings were in the 50-foot buffer. So I don't know if you would want to see plantings elsewhere within the riverfront.
Can I recommend
Yeah.
that whatever the square footage that we had to mitigate before, Brad Holmes tells us the right number of trees to go into that amount of space. So
Okay.
that spacing is
that
really-
or propose a plan to like smother the knotweed for a period of time, and we can revisit this and like how long does it take to kill and cover?
I don't think that's appropriate under their previous permit to do. But I would agree with having Brad tell us the right number of trees to cover that square footage.
It's what we approved.
Yeah, the
Approved
2,200
mitigation.
square feet was the size.
Yeah, whatever the right number of trees for that he says,
Okay.
I'd be open to attacking, going after the knotweed. Like that seems like I don't know. Other commissioners, Tom, Steve, Kathy, thoughts on this? This is an odd one.
Yeah, this is why we wanted to bring it to you guys. So I was like, just get at least the 2 trees in and we'll see what the commission says. So that was definitely like, we weren't sure how you guys were going to digest this because obviously the site did not look like that.
I wouldn't say just give us I'm not just putting it to Brad to say what the equivalent of trees is. I would say we want something in place of the 2,200 square feet of mitigation. Give us some options, maybe one might be to approach the project with removal of the knotweed. I would think as a homeowner, that's what I would probably gravitate towards. Otherwise, it's going to be an ongoing issue. And then they can address the mitigation after that. Alternatively, but I'm not comfortable with just having Brad say, what's the number of trees that equal 22 feet of mitigation? Tom, what do you think?
Well, I don't think that that really fits in again with the previous permit that they had, order of conditions here. And I think it would really require a whole new approach to this. I think I'd be in favor of putting more trees in. There's about 5, 10, 15, 20. There's 30 bushes there that we're gonna be put in. And so instead of putting in these shrubs, I would think that we should be putting in a number of trees. And I tend to, I think Will's on the right track here. Brad Brad could tell us how many can fit here. It doesn't make any sense to put any more trees in there than that 2,500 square feet can handle. None of them would then reach the proportions of canopy that we really want to see. So I think we should defer to Brad and say, well, how should we replace those 30 shrubs with something that is going to shade them? In terms of removing the knotweed, we already have an experiment going at 205 Atlantic, and that's been tarped now for about 3 years, I believe. And we don't know what's going to happen there when they pull off the tarps there. That's probably not too far in the future here, judging by how much progress they've made on that house. So I don't think I'd be in favor of starting another one of these until we know how well it worked in the first one. And again, the tree count, Brad's a professional. I think he can determine the number of trees here that he can squeeze in here in hopes of shading this. And maybe they don't have to be in that 2,500 feet. Probably around the edges too would be the way to go here.
Steve, what do you think?
Well, it'll be challenging back there because it looks like it's already fairly wooded. So where they would put the trees it certainly needs to be looked at. But I think that you're right that adding more to offset the loss of the other plantings, the bush plantings, might be preferable at this point, because again, if we don't know what's going to happen with the knotweed and we can't predict that, it doesn't make any sense to try to do anything with it at this point. And I suspect that we are not willing to either have heavy equipment or herbicide in that area. And also it's pretty heavily wooded at the moment, beyond the area that's grass, and that grass is well above the well above where the wetland is. In fact, it's where the silt sock ended.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's hard to see from the aerials, but I think if you guys look back at my site photos, like this area did not look like that with that much amount of knotweed 2+ years ago when I was back at the site in about, I think sometime in 2023. It's hard to see, but this is the knotweed patch right here. And obviously this is how much shade coverage you're dealing with in that knotweed. I'm not sure if Jason can answer this of how much this area is shaded on a daily basis, but the knotweed's definitely growing pretty strong in this middle patch area here. It hasn't reached the eastern side of the property where we planted the trees, but it is starting to creep on the western side.
Yeah, there's a good amount, midday the sun is overhead.
So it's getting full sun.
It is getting full sun. Yeah, the knotweed started right after the silt sock. I have noticed, the knotweed on my neighbor's property as well.
Yep.
So
it's back here too.
Yeah.
It's over here.
Commissioner's really point as a homeowner, yes, I would love to get rid of it, but the sort of 3 years, whether it would work or not, I'm in favor. I would love to plant more trees and plan to. So I'd love to pursue that. Yes, I'm looking for guidance for half the reason for the COC. If we look in it, the other results are positive on the test, I would come back for another NOI and see if I can pursue that as a homeowner.
Kathy, any comments? Or what do you think, Kathy?
I think asking Brad what he thinks would be best there, given the situation. But I'm all for putting in more trees also.
Okay. All right. So we continue this until we hear from Brad then? Or Charlotte, what's our approach here? We're not gonna issue the COC, right, until we have a plan from Brad?
I think that's
Or-
up to the commission. Yeah, I mean, you can hold off, you can do a COC contingent upon, you can continue it to maybe the next hearing, and maybe we could at least get Brad's input of where to put those trees. So I think, yeah, you definitely have options.
Yeah, I would want to hear from Brad personally rather than just having it,
Okay.
proving it and having it. Is there a sale pending, or is this a immediate need for this COC?
I've had a few extensions from the bank on my construction loan, so I have until I think the spring before I start to get lending fines. So I do
Okay.
have some time, and I'm more than happy to wait until the next session and join, for Brad to get out there.
All
I
right,
also don't
let's
know
hear-
if anything would be planted maybe as we start to get usual temperatures, but yeah.
I don't think we need to have any plantings done per se, but I would like to hear Brad's input at least.
Okay.
So we could push it. I'm sure you could get something from him by the 20th.
Something, oh, sorry to interrupt you, Chris. I think if you continue to the next hearing and we have Brad's assessment of how many trees and where to put them, and then you vote on a COC, technically, I mean, you could do either contingent upon the plantings being done in the spring, and then I can issue it when I confirm those are done in the spring, or you could even issue the COC with the ongoing conditions of 40 and 41, because 41 relates to the plantings that have to survive 3 full years. I could also just send a follow-up letter saying with the COC, we expect as part of the, COC that you have to put in these plantings by a certain date in the spring or something. And I know it's a little unorthodox, but I think it really depends on what you guys are comfortable with doing. And I guess also, Jason, if we did know if there was like a hard deadline of when the bank's going to start obviously yelling at you, that would really help us as well. I don't know if you want to provide that information. I understand it may be sensitive, so.
No, I'm happy to bring that to the next meeting as well.
Okay, yeah, maybe we can get an idea on what timelines we're working with, and then the commission can make a decision on that. But yeah, for the next hearing, are you okay with November 20th, with just bringing this back on November 20th?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Then we'll continue till the 20th.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. The other COCs for tonight were also continued, Charlotte, so we're
Yep.
back to our normal agenda, so that means the rate increases.
Yes, I'm sorry it's taken a while, but we finally have it. So I think in talking about this with Chris and with Steve, we thought that we could probably do this in 2 parts because we understand some of the changes may warrant more discussion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present just the fee increases and the changes I made. And then there were some new proposal changes related to tree removal. So we can talk about that second. You guys can vote on this in 2 parts. And if we don't end up coming to a conclusion on the tree stuff tonight, I can always just take it off and then we can figure it out later. So starting with the fee summary. So the existing fee schedule has not been updated since April 2016. Actually, Mindy was very helpful in this process early on when she first started. We did an analysis of the fees mostly in the South Shore, but we also looked elsewhere for stormwater. The summary with stormwater is we're very pricey. So whoever set this fee schedule initially, we're pretty high. I haven't found a town that's higher than we are, although there are certain ways that towns have broken up stormwater. We definitely do it differently. I'm not saying our way's better or worse. It's just we definitely do ours differently. And so that's why we didn't really change the structure too much. We just increased the fees. So you guys can see here that there was not. Oh, sorry.
I just have, while you're on this, is there, at some point, not urgent, can you tell us how many of these you're issuing a year? Excuse me.
How many stormwater permits?
Yeah, or how much
Yeah, I can tell you.
are fees total throughout the year, I guess?
Yeah, I can tell you. So our annual reports from the town include all those totals. I don't have the report in front of me, but I could pull it up. But it's if my rough memory is anywhere from 20 something to 40 something. And those include administrative permits, which are the most common. Administrative permits currently cost $750. And then the most common type of stormwater permit is probably category 2, which is 1,050. So if you multiply anywhere from 700 to 1,000 times like 2030, that's kind of a rough estimate of how much we bring in for stormwater. I will be transparent that any money we bring in seems to just go mostly to my salary. That's why we're in the red with what we collect per month, and it varies. We don't obviously charge like $10 per square foot like a building permit. So that's why we definitely saw a need to increase fees. And then also given the complexity of projects, we're like, oh yeah, we should be charging these people money for these massive projects, And so, yeah. Sorry, does that answer your question, Will?
Oh, yeah, good. And well, I would just have the same question for NOIs, but
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep. So this was the number one thing that we needed to remove. There was an administrative $100 fee. This is only in our fee schedule. It is not in our bylaw. It is not in our regs. It is only for projects that do not trigger the bylaw. So it's not enforceable. So I have not been doing it. So I'm taking it out. This was put in by the original conservation agent who was charging for a lot of things. So we increased the category. So category 2 is a single family home, whether it's raise and rebuild or a new one. So we increased it by 200. And then category 3 also increased by 200. This is more than one residential building or one commercial building. This is, again, more than one. And we also split this up. It might be easier for me to go to the track changes, but categories 4 and 5 are basically for large projects. So category 5 is like basically subdivision level with more than 4 single family homes or 4 or more. And then category 4 is somewhere in between. The fees were quote unquote to be determined by the agent. And it was anywhere from like 1,500 to 2,500. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So we just kept 1,500 for category 4 with this asterisk, obviously saying that, they were determined by the agent for 4 and 5. So for 4, I just kept it as 1,500 and increased it by 300, and then 2,500 increased it by 2,750. So these are the changes here. And we also increased our administrative fee by $50 from $250 to $300. And, like we said, given the high cost that we already have in comparison to other towns, we felt like incrementally increasing it by $200 to $300 plus the $50 administration fee would mean that we're bringing in a lot more money for the permits. We did review administrative and smaller permits around other towns. And again, $750 is like more than what a lot of towns charge. So we did not change category 1 and kept it as $750. Does anyone have any comments on this before I move to the NOI fees? Does anyone like this, not like this, want to see the fees go higher, et cetera?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about it, but keep going, Charlotte. I'll come back at it.
Okay. And also this was discussed with John. So John did help with determining the increases. So
My question was, I think there are state fees for wetlands permits, but are there stormwater state fees as well? No, okay.
No. So when you file a notice of intent, you really just specify if it triggers the stormwater standards or not. If it does, you normally have to get a 401 water quality certification and possibly other permits from the state. So obviously there's fees for that, but it's not like the fees go up with a notice of intent if you trigger a stormwater permit. The NOI fees are solely determined by the number of activities that you're doing in each category. But Tom, you had comments, but I think you said keep going.
No, just keep going. I have a lot to say about it.
Okay. Chris, Kathy, Steve, anything else to quickly add, or do you want to just wait?
Oh, so far, so good.
Okay. So the NOIs, as I quickly mentioned, they are also broken down into categories, and I can pull up the track changes as well so you guys can see what I did. Oh, and I'll just quickly add for the stormwater, the explanations were extremely confusing. So I clarified those a lot, and I can pull up that language to I made it very clear what was in each category. And I also referenced the bylaws specifically and even copied and pasted and summarized the language and added the references so that there's no confusion of when you need a full permit versus when you need an administrative one. And so for NOIs, these fees were not on the fee schedule. So the $100 variance fee, if you guys scroll down to the very bottom of our not very bottom, but towards the bottom of our regulations, we should have been charging for this the whole entire time, and it just wasn't in our fee schedule. So it's now there. And I wrote for each variance request. So if we have a project that has 2, 3, possibly even more variance requests, it's going to be $100 for each of them. So For any work that's proposed in the 50, we're supposed to be charging $100. For any work with herbicides, an additional 100. So yeah, that's now on the fee schedule. And then proposed fees, we can come back to this. That's the second portion I'm going to categorize later tonight. And then stormwater amended. So I'm sorry, going quickly back to stormwater. We're increasing the fees incrementally for amended stormwater. A lot of other towns did that and we liked that. So some towns did 1, 2, 3, 4. We did after the fourth time, you're basically repaying the original filing fee. And we also added minor revision fees. Now, I was a little hesitant to do this for notices of intent and stormwater, but given the fact that we see so many administrative changes for every single project and it's extremely time consuming for me to review, I was trying to dance between compliance. I want these people to call me. It's taken years for them to call me. So obviously for the initial one, I don't want to charge it. But if there's multiple changes, yeah, I want to start charging these people. It's very time consuming for me to review them and send them to Chris and Steve. And obviously they're busy. And so, it's a lot of work on our board and we don't really want to see 50 billion changes for certain projects. We added more NOI fees where again, for amended, we're incrementally fixing it. So the original for amended is 150. So for NOIs, we did 250, 350, and then the original filing fee for anything more than the third. This is very unlikely, by the way. I think if anyone's amending a notice of intent, it's only once, but sometimes we've seen twice. We also added more certificate of compliance fees. So other towns did this as well. For a partial, which is rare, we halved the cost. So the current cost for a COC, regardless of how old it is 150. So we're doing partial 75, and then COC after 10 years, we want to double it. And after 25 years, we want to add 500. So if I'm closing out permits from 1970 something, which by the way, are a lot more administrative work on Mindy and myself, we have to pull boxes, scan everything in, it takes hours. So yeah, we want to charge more money. And then extension fees, obviously clarifying, we did add this. Some other towns did this and we thought this was a good idea. Residential permit extensions can be 150. And same as the original, same as the original cost for an extension permit, but then all other extension permits for like commercial, et cetera, should be double because those are larger projects and they need more oversight and more work. And then obviously 100 per variance was added to the fee breakdown. And then obviously the administrative fee, which was increased from 250 to 300 was added to the fee breakdown. So I can quickly pull that up. And I'm not going to do the tree stuff for now. This was all the language changes I made for stormwater and for NOIs. I think that part is easier to show you guys in the track changes. But I guess I'll pause for now while I pull that up. And I guess, I don't know if, Chris, do you want to go back to stormwater or do you want to stick with NOI? What do you want to do first? Oh, sorry, Chris, you're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, let's go back to stormwater. Or
Okay.
Tom, do you want to comment now or you want to wait still?
Well, I have a general comment to make about it, and maybe this is as good a time as ever. A couple of things. One is that almost 10 years has passed since these fees were set. And if you do something simple like look at the consumer price index and just escalate our 2016 fees to $25,
yep,
you find that there's about a 35% increase.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keep in mind that $100 in 2016 was actually worth more. It has a new equivalent because of inflation. Yep. So it's about 35%. So if you were to escalate these, which any sound business would do.
Yep.
In fact, businesses do it all the time. They keep track of what inflation is and they raise their prices accordingly. That's really what inflation's all about.
Yep.
We're giving one of the richest towns in America a 35% discount if we go ahead with your plan, Charlotte.
Yep. The CPI index idea was vetoed.
Yeah, my counterpoint would be that any business has to compete with other businesses. So I think that's why you compared to other towns, right?
We did, yeah. So we initially had proposed, we initially had proposed the CPI index increases and it was vetoed by the Director of Planning, Permitting and Inspections. And he recommended keeping them more reasonable. So that's why we did an analysis of, we did research on all the other towns in the surrounding areas. And we also, not all towns have a stormwater bylaw. So we did have to go outside the South Shore perimeter and look at more towns of what they did. And I can pull up the Excel sheet.
Was anyone higher than us?
I don't think so. Mindy can jump in on this, but I don't think so. I can pull up the Excel sheet.
So I find it interesting that government would see its tax revenues eroded by inflation. No wonder we're struggling with deficits at all levels.
And yeah, and this is a pattern, Tom. Like it's really sad to see what the state gets for wetlands permits. It's literally disgusting.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is, as I can slowly scroll through this, but you can see a lot of towns like Braintree, like larger towns, are definitely increasing the cost when you have multifamily buildings that have several units, so I don't know if the commission likes that idea, but obviously we don't see that many massive, like things like that, like the Elm Street condos. We don't see those projects that often, but as you can see, look at the numbers. I mean, Canton's pretty expensive, but again, they're breaking it down by units, commercial, industrial, I mean, Dedham's another big one, and look how much they're doing. But also keep in mind, these are much larger towns. So maybe, Tom, you might have a point, obviously, with,
I would also point out that the percentage of the construction cost has been declining by 35% probably over the same period, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost free now for a developer or a residence to get a permit relative to the cost of their construction cost than it was in 2016. Now, maybe we were charging way too much in 2016. I'm not commenting about whether we're charging too much or too little.
Yeah.
I'm pointing out that we once charged a much larger proportion of the cost of doing business, let's say, in this town, and it's been reduced by 35%. And
you're correct.
That doesn't sound like a very sound business plan to me.
Yep.
In the meantime, across nationwide, the total compensation has been like one step ahead of inflation, about 1.4, 1.5%, something like that. Well, you know where that 1.4, 1.5% comes from. It's an average of everybody. So people in a town like this certainly have seen their own total compensation race ahead of that number.
Yep.
So just about everybody in town here has been beating inflation for the last 10 years.
I think it's difficult because, like you said, building permits are tied directly to the cost that you're building, right? It's 1% or whatever it is. But ours, you could be doing a $10,000 landscape project that requires $2,000 in permits, not to mention $3,000 in plans, and get charged the same amount as someone that's doing $1 million.
Yeah, and I would say that's ridiculous that it should be that way. It should be scaled to the size of the project.
You could do that too. Yeah.
I think that would be
Look at this.
far more equitable thing. Some developer that's going to drop 2 or 3 or actually 205 Atlantic, they're going to drop at least $8 million on that. They already paid for the property.
Yeah.
So
I think
so
this is a good idea.
This isn't even a flea bite on an elephant's butt.
I know.
To file for anything here.
I do really like both your comments, Will and Tom, on the larger the project, the more the person should be paying. If you are building a 15,000 square foot home with 18 bedrooms, like, why should you have to pay the same as someone who just wants an in-law addition for their handicap relative?
But if you're replacing your cesspool with a modern system, you shouldn't have to pay thousands of dollars for your permit.
Agreed.
So
you probably get a discount for improving everything.
Maybe that ought to be free.
Yeah.
That's a benefit to us. So the whole structure of it is kind of sick, I think.
Do you want me to, we, as you can see, lot of people.
Let me ask one more question, Charlotte.
Yeah. Okay.
So you gave us some notion that we're bringing in $30,000 or $40,000 a year or something like that, right? In fees? You said 30 something. I assume that's $30,000.
It's anywhere for stormwater specifically, it's anywhere from like 20 something permits to in some years I've had 40 something permits. That's not counting NOIs. So yeah, RDAs, as you guys know, only
Okay.
150. We bring in anywhere from 10 to 30 of those a year, but it's actually gotten lower in recent years because a lot of people are just submitting NOIs.
So as a taxpayer, I would like to see all of our fees be covering all of conservation's expenses. So my
Okay.
taxes don't go to subsidizing some of the very projects that I don't really like. Most of them. So why not have a break-even situation here?
So do you guys like this breakdown? This is for commercial industrial, and maybe we could do the same for residential. I mean, residential, for some reason, Braintree broke this up. Well, that's a subdivision, but look, I mean, Braintree, for example, is splitting it up by, you know, this is a pretty good one for commercial. I'll be honest, the vast majority of the permits, just to give you guys a little bit more data. Obviously, it varies with commercial every year. We probably only get maybe a couple of those a year. I would say the vast majority of projects we are receiving are residential.
Yeah, and some really big ones. Ones
Really, yeah.
where the developer's dropping 2, 3, maybe much more than that on these things.
Yeah.
But we also see a lot of little guys coming in for, you know,
Yep.
they want to do a remodel. So why should
Yep.
they be paying the same fee?
You are, yeah, absolutely valid. So sounds like you guys, for residential and possibly commercial, you do want to split this up by square footage and charge more. Tom, I'm happy to re-ask the question, but I was vetoed for the CPI index.
Yeah, well, I didn't expect that was going to work anyway. And I mean, for example, you know, the category 2 at 1250, it should be 1440 to have kept up with,
Yep, I did the math.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah, I mean, so you need to escalate everything by 35%. Well, I knew that wasn't going to go over, but it was worth
worth
the
it.
subject,
Yeah,
I think.
worth a shot.
And so
Well,
maybe,
what do you
maybe
guys?
maybe this is an opportunity though, then to circle back and say, this should be based on the scale of the project, not
Yeah.
just because if we're not covering our costs, if conservation is not covering our costs, that means it's coming out of funds that could be used somewhere else in town.
I also don't make that much, guys, just to be very transparent. You are not paying a 6-figure salary with these fees, and I don't even make that. So just want to be transparent of, you know,
Well,
but I
if
agree.
you
I hear
and-
you guys loud and clear. So
You
that's
and
good
Mindy,
feedback.
and there's overhead. You've
Yep.
got an office, you've got paper, you've got equipment. I mean, so it should be covered.
Agreed. Okay. Heard you loud and clear. I would suggest coming back in December then, and on December 4th, because November 20th.
I'm just one voice.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, Steve and Kathy and Chris,
the
you
rest of
guys
the-
need to
rest of
speak
the
up too.
commissioners,
Yeah, I'm listening. It sounds good.
I,
Reason-
You might want to consider what the fixed and variable costs are for each of the kinds of operations that you do.
Yep.
Sure. I mean, obviously, you must do more for a big project than a little project.
Oh
But
yeah,
there's some- but there's
it's way
some
more site
base-
visits.
But there's some base expense that there is to any project.
Yep. Yeah, the larger the project, the more site visits are almost certainly required. So like, you know, with Hingham Lumber, for example, that probably has multiple site visits versus with house projects. Most of them are anywhere from 3 to 5 inspections if there's a stormwater. So larger commercial projects, especially ones that are done in phases like Atlantica. I've been to Atlantica probably not recently because it's been kind of slow, but I've been there over a dozen times. So.
And not only the site visits, but there's also the back end.
Oh,
work
yeah.
that you have to do.
The reporting, the paperwork, yeah. Possible violation letters, all that good stuff. Okay, so.
I
what
just
I'm
don't want to. I
hearing-
just don't want to keep pushing it off. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we had a plan. We looked at the surrounding towns.
Mhm.
We're going to be charging more than them, so I think that's. I don't think we want to get too cute with it in terms of like graduated
Mhm.
fee schedules. I just want to start bringing in more,
I definitely
this-
want to get this approved by the end of the year. So I hear you on that. Like for 2026, I want to charge
Well,
more.
we can go
more
with
money.
this. I mean, we
Yeah,
can go with this, but I think
yeah.
that we should immediately start looking at an alternative that does cover our costs. And if we can change it over the course of the next 12 months, I think we should do it.
Yeah, if we look at if this is an interim change and we're looking at a more, substantial approach that's going to cover our costs, which I don't think I don't
I don't think
think
that's possible.
that's not gonna, I don't think we can cover our costs with fees per se. It's just I don't think any government operates that way and would be able to. But I just feel like we should. I'm ready to vote on this. I want to approve it. I think we just I want to just start bringing in more, and I think this is a good plan right now.
The
Yeah,
only
I-
thing I'll note, Chris, is again, I can have this conversation again, but it was advised to me that once we update our fee schedule, we shouldn't touch it for another few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
is that up to town or is that up to us?
I do not know, but
That gives us plenty of runway to determine the best way to formulate a project cost-based approach, I think.
I think based on your input though, and also given Chris's concern, if we want to start charging more money now, I can easily update this. And I can still keep a majority of the changes I recommended, but I will include for residential and commercial. I can just recategorize it and I can increase the fees the larger the project. But the one thing I would want input from you guys tonight is a max. So like I can look at other towns, but as you can tell, a lot of other towns are much bigger than we are. So obviously 10 acres is very unlikely. I don't know the average parcel size in Cohasset, but maybe anything more than 3 acres, 5 acres, anything like that. Like then I would just have I wouldn't go up from there. You know what I mean? And that would just be
Yeah.
for residential. And then there'd be a different cost for commercial because obviously commercial sites might be bigger or smaller.
The size of the property is one thing, but it's more the size of the project that
Yeah.
we'd be concerned of, right?
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're not going to be walking into the woods of a big property.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, like the lumber yard, like we walked the site plan, the limits of the work,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
whole site. So
Agreed. Oh,
I
I'm
think
sorry.
we
Yeah,
would-
that's what like, so I guess, do you guys like what, I can pull up Braintree again, but do you guys like what Braintree did? Braintree had a maximum of like 10 acres or more. I think that's pretty large for
We don't even
Cohasset.
have any 10-acre commercial sites.
I know,
Nothing
unless
that-
you're dealing with a golf course.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. This one seemed pretty like 2,500 to 5,000 and then 5,000 to 20,000, 20,000 to an acre. That seems pretty big, but half an acre to an acre. Okay. Yeah. So if you guys like this kind of breakdown, I can do this and then just put our fees on it and I can charge more.
well, we're not going to raise any money doing this. I mean, a commercial is
Oh, I meant for residential and commercial.
Yeah, I mean,
And commercial, we would probably just double the rates, I guess,
most
you
of
know?
what we do is commercial, is residential here.
Exactly.
Isn't there a way we can charge for like show cause? Can't we have them submit something and charge them for that?
Definitely enforcement is a whole different conversation here. I mean, obviously enforcement is very case by case, but I think if the commission definitely wants to start issuing more fines, then yeah.
Fines, yeah, that's one thing, a
A lot
different
a lot of our show
conversation.
causes are people that don't know any better.
Mhm.
And
They'll know after they have to pay a fine.
Plus,
That's a good way to
aren't
run it.
after the fact NOIs double price or something?
And after the fact, NOIs are doubled. The only exceptions that I've made
point,
are
yeah.
the ones that you saw, the one that you saw tonight. I did not charge after the fact fees since that was more of an internal error and not the applicant's oversight.
so,
Good point.
so Charlotte, do you guys have a breakdown of how much it costs to run your part of, yeah,
I get by with nothing, Tom.
yeah, I know.
Absolutely nothing.
I know, but well, the town, it must be kicking some money into in there. They're paying you, aren't they? Or have they
Well, they're
stopped?
paying me, but I
Yeah,
don't have a
okay.
budget and that's a whole different conversation.
Oh, you don't?
Because
I do not.
you fall under permits and inspections, right?
I do. And
Yeah.
conservation does not have its own budget, and I have been advocating for this for years. Yep, that's a whole different conversation. This is just step one to bring in more money.
Well, let's bring in more money.
Yeah. No,
But
that is a,
to
yeah.
give you a sense of it, I think permits and inspections budget as a whole is like 300 grand, right?
I don't know. I haven't checked the last year's report.
It's got to be more than that. Well, that
This-
the salaries would eat that up.
Yeah.
This says FY 25 proposed 294,000.
Are
Was
the
that-
salaries somewhere different in a different category in the budget?
Well, there's a million different categories, so it's always tough to tell.
But $300,000,
We still wouldn't even get close to that if we would have to quintuple our fees.
I mean, 6 people would eat up 300,000, more than that, would eat up more than $300,000 when you figured all the costs. Pension, healthcare.
Yeah,
those are in separate budgets.
I'm not privy to those budget in that information, unfortunately. But all I know is conservation, unfortunately, does not have its own account. It never has. I have fought for this for a few years. I keep getting told no, but I'm not taking no for an answer. So that is one of the many things that I'm hoping to do to improve our department and our commission, is for us to bring in more money, have a budget, be able to actually do things, maybe even in the long term, do our own studies, and in the super long term, be able to acquire lands for conservation, but that's a pipe dream. So, yeah.
I just wonder how much I'm subsidizing development in town out of my.
That's a very good question. Public records request.
Yeah, why should I be subsidizing somebody else's construction here? Why should any of us?
Well, I would say that the whole reason we have Charlotte's job is to make sure that we're taking care of the environment. It's not necessarily to be covered by the cost of the fees. So there's a public good in what Charlotte does that.
A lot of towns are in the same boat.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, but we're also we're like cops, right? We're enforcing of the law here.
But I will say a lot of towns are like this. So like a lot of towns don't even have an agent, first off, and a lot of the agents are part-time. So we are very likely to have a full-time staff member that can help the commission. But at the same point, like a lot of towns are in this boat where conservation is not a moneymaker. You usually need to be supplemented in other ways to be able to hire full-time staff with benefits. And that includes admin too. But Mindy is also a building admin, so I'm sure her salary comes out of building as well.
So I think, you did a lot of work on these fees, and I think a lot of us are in support of them, and maybe we study longer term. What do you think, Mr. Chair? Can we vote on this and then look at them in the future?
Yeah, and I don't care if anyone advised us not to look at them again. I think we have an immediate need to kind of rectify an unattended or unupdated fee schedule, and this can just call it an interim or don't call it that, but I think in the like for now we're leaving money. The longer we put it off, the longer we're leaving money out there that we should be collecting for ourselves, and not for ourselves, for the
Don't say that.
Wait, you don't get any? But I'd say, yeah, let's make a change unless Charlotte, there's something really
Yeah, if
unless-
you guys are good with this, but I really like your input tonight on the larger the project, the more people should pay. I really like that, and I truly stand by it. I will say category 2 is the most common category we get of people who want, again, a 10,000+ square foot landscaping project, or people who just want maybe an ADU and a driveway, and then that totals over 5,000, where maybe that's more of a need thing versus the same person who's actually, no, I'm going to shut up there. Person who's building a 10,000 square foot landscaping project. Yeah. So sorry, I should shut my mouth. But yeah, so I mean, if you guys want to vote on this tonight, minus the tree thing, I'm happy to do that. And it would, again, I've just been advised to not update our fee schedule for another 3 years. So just keep that in mind.
Well, it might take 3 years to figure out a plan that is progressive
Yeah.
taxation rather than regressive taxation.
Okay.
And pays our way rather than tapping into taxpayer funds that are actually subsidizing residential things like swimming pools, tennis courts, oversized houses. you
Yep.
name it.
Actually, I could add something right now. I
No,
mean, if
no,
we,
no,
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 you
no,
don't
let's-
want me to write any project over an acre? You got to pay category 5 or more? You don't want to put a maximum square footage size?
let's go with what you got. If
No? Okay.
everybody wants to vote that way.
Okay.
I'll approve this.
All right. Let me just show you guys how this looks without
Mark.
the markup. So I'll come back to the tree thing, but just this was like literally a small paragraph and it was very confusing to a lot of professionals. So I literally put the bylaw right in there, no question. Kept the fee the same, added the bylaw, referenced it, and then increased the fees, and then clarified this to make it much easier of what kind of project we need. And then amended stormwater permit is no additional cost unless it's determined by the agent that the project has significantly changed. So the only reason why we did this is because amended stormwater permits are usually extremely rare. Most of the time we're getting an amendment, it's because of like minor fixes here and there for like minor changes that can be approved, and amended is always a notice of intent. So I've never seen amended stormwater permits unless there's a massive change to the project. But I really don't think an amended permit should be charged, but they still have to come back to the commission for a hearing. Unless you want to make it 150, we can totally do that. Keep it the same as an amended RDA or an NOI.
They're already crazy expensive.
Yeah. Like I said, yeah. Okay, keep it the same. And then NOIs, this is where you guys can see, increased 250 to 300, kept the COC the same, finally added what we should have added in 2016 and since 2001. Increased the added incremental fees for minor revisions, added incremental fees for amended. The initial has not changed. Extension permits kept the same, but we did add double for any non-residential project. So for a massive commercial project, added partial 75, and then increased the fees for anything after 10 years, anything after 25 years. And then clarified some language here to be more consistent with the Wetlands Protection Act, but it was pretty minor, and I can pull up the track changes if you want to see it. And then as you can see, added 300 from 250, and then added a fee for each variance request. So Mindy and I, by the way, just so you guys are aware, Mindy, I think this is actually her suggestion. She wants to review the changes, the fees schedule with me. And then when we get a submission, I am signing it. So we're reviewing the fees every time we get a permit application. That has never been done since I've started. So now that we have new transition, new blood, et cetera, that's been our process moving forward to make sure fees are actually being correctly calculated and collected. And then the NOIs, the only reason why this was not changed is because it does have implications for the Wetlands Protection Act. So the total number for these fees has not been changed. I did not have enough time to review anything with council or DEP about this, but it's been advised to not touch these fees until the State Wetlands Protection Act is updated. And one of the state recommendations is to increase fees for a lot of different projects and then also make them cheaper for ecological restoration projects. So that's why these fees were not changed. But like I said, Mindy and I are reviewing fees more closely, and we're making sure people are charging the right amount of money. And
Charlotte,
we've already caught several mistakes for Riverfront, for example.
Oh,
Can you-
okay.
can you
So
take,
there-
I'm sorry, just
Go
a
ahead.
typo thing. Can you take the comma out of the 1,450? You don't have commas anywhere else.
Oh, thank you. You got it. But yeah, so like Riverfront, for example, you're supposed to multiply by 1.5 if you're in Riverfront and another resource area or buffer zone. That was not done as consistently. So now we're doing that every time. So all those Black Horse Lane projects, they had to multiply by 1.5 and give us more money.
Good. That's the only thing I was gonna say is like if we if we increase the fee per like alteration of buffer zone, so it seems like that's gonna be incorporated and we can address that, whenever the
Yeah.
wetlands.
And I'll just quickly add that the general guidance from DEP, because we did call them about this, of like, hey, like, are we supposed to be microcharging for every little thing like a lot of other towns do? And DEP said no. DEP actually said you kind of group things by the type of category. So for example, if someone's doing like a pool and a cabana, you charge one activity unless the pool house or the pool are in two completely separate like resource areas and buffer zones that could have additional implications. So it's definitely like a nuanced thing. But DEP literally said, do not microcharge for everything. That is not the way our process is set up. But unfortunately, they also did not have any guidance on how to correctly charge people. So it's definitely at the determination of whoever the conservation staff are. But in general, like, again, if you're doing a pool and a house, you charge for the pool, you charge for the house. If you're doing a massive landscaping project, you really charge for that. But then if you're doing a wall, then you add an additional category and you charge per linear square foot or charge per linear square foot for the docks or something like that. So yeah, that's how fees are calculated. So very confusing.
Okay, any comments or questions?
And then, sorry, my last question for you guys before you comment. I can take the tree stuff off with our vote tonight, unless we want to have a conversation about that now.
Let's just vote and then we can talk, switch to.
Vote
trees.
without the tree. Okay, so vote on the fee schedule without the tree stuff.
Does that sound good to everyone unless you want to go through the tree stuff?
Is it controversial?
No, it's just more nuanced and
No.
maybe.
Charlotte, I think you explained this to me, right? This was trying to encourage people with a cheaper fee to come get
Yeah.
RDAs, right? Is that what it is?
Correct.
Yeah.
But hazardous trees do not count for the fee assessment. And then you and Steve and I think Chris had all recommended and agreed to switch this to 4 inches because the land alteration bylaw for zoning defines a tree at 4 inches at diameter, breast height, and then Steve, can you remind me, does the planning thing say 4 feet or 5 feet at diameter breast height? Was it 4.5 or 5? You mentioned there was.
Yeah, I believe that the planning thing said 5, but it's
Okay,
only it's a 6-inch difference. It's not gonna make.
Yeah,
It's not gonna make much difference as far as the diameter 3 is in 6 inches, particularly at the smaller end.
yeah,
So-
because the definition of diameter breast height, I think, was 4.5, and then planning board had 5 feet. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
And they called it diameter breast height. if I remember correctly.
So do we want to do 5 feet? I think because you said it's pretty much keep it consistent with the planning with zoning.
Yeah, I would keep it consistent. That's be my impression, my opinion anyway.
Is that for deciduous or coniferous?
I don't think it matters.
Coniferous is usually measured by height instead of diameter, yeah.
Yeah. This is all planning boards. I can pull, I'm sorry, not planning board, sorry, zoning.
It's fine if it matches, right? Nobody will get confused. But
Yeah.
I guess what was I gonna say? Maybe we shouldn't have opened this can of worms, sorry.
That's exactly why I was like, this could be a whole other conversation for tonight. I don't know if you guys want to do that.
Let's vote on it without this, talk about that some other time.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I say. Do you guys agree?
That's what the plan was.
Sorry.
So I will delete this, but not from this particular version. So just ignore this tree removal stuff and this language that's highlighted.
Charlotte, is there any other part or section that you want feedback on? So if you're, trying to get this done, like now, just while we're here, nothing? Okay.
No, mostly just if you guys are okay with my longer language, because I really felt the bylaw needed to be in the fee schedule, because people were just looking at the fee schedule, not the bylaw, and then relying on me to tell them what the fee was. I'm like, no, you're going to look at the fee schedule and you're going to look at the bylaw. But since you may not do both, I copied and pasted it for your convenience.
I think that's a good idea.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Smart. All right.
Yeah, the fee schedule has not lined up with our bylaws for a very long time, so that's why I wanted to change that. This was more minor in nature. And then, like I said, I added a few additional things so that, because this is straight up from the Wetlands Protection Act, but I added a few additional things that I did see in other town fee schedules, because a lot of people get very lazy with category breakdown. So for example, patios and sheds, this is a lot. You see this one plans a lot. So if they're in a different location, like in the 50-foot buffer, no, we want to charge for that, you know? So yeah,
Yeah.
we're not going to microcharge, but if they have a different impact from the project, then yes, you're going to break it down as another category. So we added some additional language there just for clarity. This is from Wetlands Protection Act, so I added that. This was kind of clarifying, can be, you know, in terms of not for exploration versus for exploration. Those are two different categories. And then added obviously this, given the recent projects. Yeah, just to make sure that's very clear of which category you're going with. But all this was really to be more consistent with Wetlands Protection Act of what the language is. And then I added a couple different words just for clarity so that people could categorize their fees correctly. And then, yeah, this is the fee schedule breakdown that every single person submits when they submit an NOI or a stormwater. Well, yeah. Sorry, mostly NOI. Yeah. That's it.
All right.
Did a lot of work.
Thank you. Looks good.
Thank you.
Anyone?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the fee schedule as presented with the exception of whatever, what is that section called? The tree RDAs or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
RDA language for trees.
Yeah.
I second that motion. And so with a motion and a second, I'll take a roll call vote. Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Steve Magnell,
Steve Magnell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, aye.
and Chris McIntyre. Aye. That vote passes 5-0-0.
Yay.
Yes.
Thank
Good.
you, Charlotte.
And once I give this to town clerk and post it online, it's official. It does not need to go to town meeting.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Woo. Thank you guys. Yeah, I appreciate all your feedback. It's been very helpful. And I definitely will consider a lot of those changes for the next round of edits. And maybe by then we'll have state changes in place. So that will line up with our fee schedules, hopefully too.
All right. And let's I'll look at the free thing and we can touch on that next time we have a light agenda, but any 48-hour issues or other agent updates for tonight? Anything, Charlotte?
I have just regular updates. 48-hour update. I'm sure you guys may be aware, obviously, of the news last week, but just wanted to let you know that this week they did announce that Michelle Leary will be the interim town manager for the time being.
Okay. Thank you.
What? Huh?
You didn't know?
No.
Chris Senior made an announcement at last Tuesday's select board meeting that his contract will not be renewed.
Wait a minute. He made an announcement it won't be renewed? or
After an
he-
executive session.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He didn't resign, right?
I thought he did, but I think the wording was, and if anyone was listening on the select board meeting, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't listening. I think it was that the select board is not renewing his contract. He made an announcement that after 12 years, he's essentially stepping down and his contract will not be renewed.
I thought he said he wasn't pursuing a contract extension, but
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure.
Right.
I think,
Yes.
Tom, you're asking whether it was his choice or not, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
Executive session.
a lot of yeah. It sounds like he's not pursuing to renew it, so it sounds like resignation to me, but
Yeah.
whatever. Okay, so that's that.
Yep.
And
That's the transition. So yeah, agent updates, pretty regular. As you guys know, I'm going to MassDOT site on 3A pretty regularly. There have been erosion and sediment contagion concerns for the last month plus. As you guys may have seen, the utility companies redid all the utility poles. They pretty much just threw a straw wattle around it and threw in a bunch of fill. That fill technically is already authorized, but the sites are messy and now the wetlands are getting wet. And so we kind of have all been looking at it together since you have three different people with three different authorities all questioning the same thing. There was a large area in Situate that had to be very much stabilized, and they have significantly made improvements to that. But the utility poles, it's kind of like they're already going to get, like that area is already going to get significantly altered next year. But we did say you still have to temporarily stabilize the site. So that's still an action item that's coming up in the environmental monitoring reports. They do not plan to work past Beechwood Street and Shaw's in that area between Pond and Shaw's until next year. So that will be when all the heavy wetlands and stream relocation and wetlands restoration and replication work all occur. The DEP and several state departments have still not approved the dewatering plan as part of the stormwater prevention pollution plan and the other state federal permits that were issued. So once I have that, I'll definitely make sure that you guys are aware. But other than that, it's mostly been working in Situate. So still status quo on our end. And then I've been keeping track of all the utility companies coming in and out and all the trees getting taken out because there is a condition to replace the trees as much as possible. We understand it's a very tight limit of work. We may only be able to get a couple trees in, but I'm still doing my best to just keep a tally chart anytime I see trees coming down without, you know, they're by other utility companies. 95 Atlantic Ave, we had just approved their amended NOI to do the landscaping work and take out the driveway that's paved right now and put in impervious and plant all this stuff. So they're going to start next week. I just did a pre-construction visit with them and told them to just fix some things with the erosion control barriers. And then 58 Gammons, that was a raise and rebuild. He's been waiting on a building permit. I think he's finally ready to start. And I had also inspected erosion controls earlier this week. Other updates relate to a lot of the enforcement matters. So 0 Beechwood Street, if you guys recall, this was like a big one behind the ball fields. The trees had been there for a few years. We are going to be putting this back on an agenda because given the status of how the site has grown in, I'm a little concerned about the trees' survival because they are all getting choked out by, well, not all of them, but a good portion of the ones we could access are all getting choked out by bittersweet. So I've been working with Brad and the owner, and I'm gonna put this back on the 12-4 agenda to present a possible solution to that before we get into the last year of monitoring. 39 Riverview, this was the accidental filling of Riverfront and BVW. The grass area that we wanted to kind of just churn up and plug native seed mixes in has been installed. And then they're going to work with me to plant all the plants by end of 2026. So the initial work for the BVW replication is done. And then 34 Flintlock, I'm going to have a call with the owner about this one. To make a very long story short, I don't want to say anything private, but there's just been some unfortunate issues that the owner's been dealing with in a personal matter. And so she hasn't been able to do this work. She has been keeping us updated that she's been getting contractors and stuff. But since then, this is over a year ago now, the site has grown in, and a lot of it is native, jewelweed, which is, it can be a monoculture and arguably. And so there's just some fill and boulders that need to be removed. And then I'm working with Brad on seeing what we need to do with storing the rest of the wetland once the rest of the fill and the boulders come out. So I'm going to set up a call with her, hopefully next week, with Brad to understand what she needs to do and when. And I will be honest, if she may be selling the home. So that's another reason why we want to get this taken care of if there are any housing sales and we don't keep this enforcement order and put it on the new person who, I don't know. So that's what's going on with enforcement world. And then the staff transitions, actually, that wasn't even a 48-hour update. That was a real update. So yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. I forgot I put that in there.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? Okay. Then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Voice vote then. All in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Bye.
Aye. Great. Thank you,
All
everyone.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Almost.
Thank you.
Good night.
We'll post that
Record
fee
time.
schedule right away.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Night, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye.